how to create a heat map in Microsoft Excel. So if you want to create a heat map in Excel, which is a visual, you don't really have a default chart that you can insert directly in Excel. What you need to do is smartly use conditional and custom formatting in Excel to create a heat map. Let's go ahead and understand this with an example. So I'll go back to Microsoft Excel where we have this data. We have the data of a few cities for the months of Jan till December and the average temperature for them. Using this data, what we need to do is find out which city is the hottest and when is it the hottest. So how do I do that? Well, one way to do this would be to simply look at all the numbers and try to see which is having the highest number, which month, which city is having the highest number, and get the answer like that. However, that's not the most efficient way of getting the answer. Another way in which you can get the answer is by creating a heat map for this data. So as I mentioned, heat map is not a default chart that is there in Microsoft Excel. So you cannot simply go to insert, go to the chart section and try to insert a heat map. It's not really available there. What you need to do is use conditional and custom formatting to create a heat map for yourself. So let's go ahead and do that for our data. To do that, the first thing that I will do is select my entire data where I need to visualize the numbers. So it will be starting from here and ending on this cell. I have selected my entire data. Once I do that, I will be going to conditional formatting within the home tab right here. Click on conditional formatting and you will be having tons of options that you can select from. The one that we will be interested in is this option called as color scales. So once you go to color scale, you can apply a color to all these different cells based on the value that they have in comparison to the rest of the values. So for example, the first color scale that we have is the green, yellow, and red color scale. So if you notice, if I apply this color scale, wherever you have big numbers, for example, 95, 96, all of them will be in the darkest green shade. All the numbers which are towards the lower side, that is the least or the minimum numbers like 23, 24, 27, stuff like that, they will be having red colors. So low numbers will be red, higher numbers will be green, and the mid values will be in yellow. Not all of them will be having just these three colors. They will be having shades of these three colors. So you will not find one single green color. You will be finding different shades of green color depending on the value that is there in that cell. The higher the value, the higher is the green element in, or I would say the darker shade of green in that particular cell. Similarly, you have the second one, which is quite the opposite. Red, yellow, and green, where the higher values contain the red color and the lower ones contain the green color. Mid values again will contain the yellow color. Now, when you look at temperature, what colors do you assign to different temperatures? Normally, whenever there is a high temperature, whenever it is hot out there, we usually have red in our mind. And whenever it is really cold, we have the color blue, the color of, in a way, ice and water is what we have when we think of colder temperatures. So when I want to apply a color scale to my data, I also want to keep that factor in mind. So instead of applying a red, yellow, and green color scale, what I can do is simply apply a red and a blue color scale. The mid values can be in white color. The red values, or I would say the higher values, will be in red color, and the lower values will be in blue color. To do that, we have the first option in the second row, which is blue, white, and red. However, if you notice, we are literally having the opposite of what we want. Higher values are blue and lower values are red. So this is not the one that we should be going with. Instead of this, the second one that we have here is red, white, and blue color scale. So right here, if I select this, higher values are in red and lower values are in blue. The mid values are towards the white color. So this is the perfect one that I would say personally prefer. Simply click on it or whatever color scale you want for your data and apply it. And that's it. Now you have a visual aid to understand which city was the hottest and when was it hottest. The darker the shade of red color, the hotter the city in that particular month. So right here, the darkest shade of red is in this cell, which as you can see is 96 Fahrenheit in the month of August for the Dallas city as well. So this is basically what we are having. Now, once we have this entire color scale applied, one more thing that you can do is simply select the entire data and make the data invisible so you only have the colors and it looks like a more authentic heat map. How do you literally make all the data invisible? Well, one possible, I would say, thought that you might be having would be to select the entire data and simply delete the values, right? But if you do that, the color scale will also go away. Why? Because the color scale or the heat map is dependent on the values that you have in the cell. It does not keep it in memory. So if you delete the values, the color scale will also go away. So deleting the values is not an option. The second thing that you can do is simply change the color of all the data to white color. But if I do that, have a look at what happens. You still have the data visible because the background is not white, right? So all these values will still be visible and changing the color simply to white will not really help. So what do you need to do? Well, in this case, now that we have applied conditional formatting, we have to take one step further and apply something called as custom formatting. So if you want to make your data invisible, you need to apply a custom format to it. Let me show you what exactly that means and how can you apply it. For example, if I want to apply a custom formatting to it, I will have to right click on my entire data and then go to Format Cells. Another way to go to Format Cells dialog box is to use the shortcut Control plus the 1 key. So I will simply press Control plus 1 and it will help me go to the Format Cells dialog box. In this dialog box, you will be having the last option under category as custom formatting. Simply go to custom formatting and right here where you have type, remove whatever is there in type and add three semicolons to the type. Adding three semicolons as the formatting of this data will simply make it invisible. So if I go ahead and apply three semicolons, that's it. My data is now invisible. So now if I click on OK, as you can see, my data is still there, but it is invisible. So if you go to any cell, you will be able to see the value in the formula bar. I go to this, I see 42. I go to this, I see 65 as well. However, you will not be able to see the values in all these cells because they are simply invisible because of the custom formatting. If you want to bring the values back, again select the entire data, simply go to custom formatting and remove the three semicolons. Again click on OK and the values will be back. So this is how you can create a heat map and make it more authentic by removing the data or simply making it invisible. That's it for this lesson. I will see you in the next one.